In the early evening hours of June 12, 2009, a thin, middle-aged man walks into the Sligo City Hotel in Sligo, Ireland. He requests a room for the next 3 days and pays for them in cash. He lists an address in Vienna, Austria as his hometown and checks in under the name Peter Bergmann. 4 days later, his body washes ashore on a nearby beach and is found by a pair of runners just before 7 o'clock in the morning. Shortly after, local police discovered that the Austrian address he gave led to an empty lot, and that the name he had checked in with was false. Who was this mystery man? Why did he lie about his name and address? And how did he die? This is the mysterious story about the final days of a man who erased himself from existence. The story of Peter Bergmann began on a bus in the town of Derry, Northern Ireland. He boarded a bus headed for Sligo carrying nothing but a couple of bags, which he would later be spotted with as he checked into the Sligo City Hotel. The bus driver noted that he hadn't stood out in any way and could barely recollect the man even when shown CCTV footage by the police. After arriving in town, he took a cab to the city center and began searching for a hotel. The first one he went to didn't have any vacancies, but he found better luck upon arriving at the second one. During his stay at the hotel, the staff hadn't noticed anything unusual about him. He was polite, but very clearly a loner, and didn't seem too interested in mingling with anyone. He would leave his room only for a handful of reasons: to come down for breakfast, smoke a cigarette, and most oddly of all, dispose of several items he had stored inside of a purple bag. Security camera footage would show him leaving his room every few hours holding a plastic purple bag that was clearly filled with something, only to return later without the bag. The assumption was that he went and disposed of whatever was inside before folding it up and keeping it tucked away in his coat pocket. We can't be sure, however, because despite a thorough search of the waste bins around town after his death, police couldn't come up with any evidence suggesting what was inside of the bags. The telling thing about this is Mr. Bergmann took great care to avoid security cameras as he disposed of the items, despite not seeming to have any issue being captured on them while he was at the hotel. The next day after arriving in Sligo, Mr. Bergmann went to a nearby post office and purchased several stamps and airmail stickers. To this day, investigators have never figured out who he would have sent any letters to, and no one has come forward to say whether or not they received one. The assumption many seem to have is these were his final correspondence to his loved ones, but we have no way of knowing for sure. Later that same day, a cleaning lady was trying to get into Mr. Bergmann's room and couldn't get an answer when knocking on the door. This prompted one of the hotel staff to open it for her, surprising Peter inside. The woman described his reaction as that of someone who had been caught doing something they shouldn't be, as opposed to being pissed off, which would have probably been a lot of other people's reaction. She also commented Mr. Bergmann seemed relieved that it was the hotel staff and not someone else. On Sunday morning the following day, Mr. Bergmann flagged down a passing-by cab and told the driver he wanted to go for a swim. The driver took him to Ross's Point, which was a local beach a few miles away from the hotel. Bergmann got out of the cab, looked around briefly, and seemed to give an approving nod before unexpectedly getting back in the cab and asking the driver to take him back to the hotel. This obviously struck the cab driver as very odd, and stuck out in his memory when he was later asked about Mr. Bergmann. Peter spent the rest of that Sunday going in and out of the hotel, disposing of more items inside of his purple plastic bag, taking great lengths not to be spotted on security footage as he did. On Monday morning, Mr. Bergmann went down to the hotel's desk and requested a late checkout, citing that he had some errands to run before he left. The hotel approved of this request, and once again he was spotted leaving with his purple plastic bag, disposing of more items he had brought with him on the trip. Around 1 p.m., he checks out of his room and is again seen carrying the bag along with a laptop bag and an airplane carry-on bag. He makes his way to the Sligo bus terminal and seems to disappear from security view en route to it. reappearing with one of the bags he left the hotel with now gone. Inside of the bus station, he stops at the cafe, ordering a sandwich and some coffee. During his meal, Peter can be seen taking out a piece of paper from his pocket and jotting down some notes, only to tear the piece of paper up and dispose of it a few minutes later. By the time police had begun looking into Mr. Bergmann's death, though, the shreds of paper were long gone. After finishing up his food, he makes his way over to the bus and requests a one-way ticket to Ross's Point. Arriving at the beach, Mr. Bergmann appears to spend the rest of his day pacing back and forth along the coastline. Witnesses remember him distinctly due to him looking very out of place in his professional-style dress on that hot June afternoon. His last interaction with another person came around 11 p.m. that evening, when a man and his girlfriend decided to take a late-night walk along the beach and encountered him. They said that he didn't really interact with them much, only smiling and nodding in their direction when they walked by and said hello to him, but due to the late hour he was out there, it stuck out in their mind. After the young couple left to go home, they saw Mr. Bergmann was still walking along the beach by himself, and this would be the last time he was seen alive. The following day around 7 a.m., a man and his son had gotten up for a morning jog along Ross's Point. As the early morning fog lifted, the father and son spotted what looked like a mannequin washed up along the beach. As they got closer, though, they discovered the lifeless body of Mr. Bergmann, a victim of what they at the time assumed had been drowning. They placed a call to local law enforcement and said the Lord's Prayer over Peter's body as they waited for authorities to arrive. Mr. Bergmann's body held no identification, and a search of his clothing revealed that he had actually gone and removed each individual tag so the location they had been bought could not be traced. Despite the fact his body had washed up on the shore, drowning was not believed to have been the cause of death, as there were no physical signs of that present. Foul play was not suspected either, and officially the cause of death was ruled as a heart attack. Where things become more revealing, however, is in the autopsy report. Despite his external appearance showing that of a relatively healthy middle-aged man, Mr. Bergmann was suffering from serious health conditions. He had late-stage prostate cancer as well as several bone tumors, and medical experts determined that he would not have lived much longer even if he hadn't died that summer morning. Interesting enough, despite this, there were no trace of painkillers or any other medication found in his system, which, needless to say, is pretty uncommon for someone fighting such a deadly illness. Peter was buried several days later in a small ceremony that was only attended by a handful of police officers. Despite an investigation that spanned several months, Mr. Bergmann's true identity has never been uncovered. No missing person from Europe or the United States matched his description, and while none of the information available in this case seems to conclusively say what happened with things like dental records and fingerprints, one can assume the police in Ireland exhausted those routes as well. In the years following his death, Mr. Bergmann's story has intrigued people all over the globe. Several articles and videos like this one were made covering the case, and a short documentary film was released in 2016 by an Irish film studio that we'll link for you in the description below if you're curious to hear more. As is the case with any unsolved mystery, several theories have sprouted in the years since, ranging from Mr. Bergmann being an undercover spy to a criminal on the run who just wanted to fade out of existence quietly. And while these theories are interesting for all of the internet sleuths, I think the reality of the situation is much more straightforward than any of these state. In my opinion, Mr. Bergmann was a man who knew he was in the final days of his life, and for whatever reason, perhaps he just didn't have many family or friends, he decided he was going to end things on his terms and just fade away. It's hard to imagine that there isn't someone out there who is close to him, and the letters indicate to me that he was sending his final goodbyes to his loved ones and asking them to not make a big deal out of looking for him. Why exactly was he so obsessed with not being identified is anyone's guess. Maybe he was just a stickler for privacy. Or maybe he was a big fan of spy movies and just wanted to see if he could do it. Regardless, while it's in many ways incredibly sad how this man's life ended, I think there's an odd beauty in it as well. The truth of the matter is, we're all going to leave this earth one day. That's a fact that is completely out of our hands. Equally out of our hands is usually the terms we leave under. Most people die tragically early or live to a ripe old age before passing on at a home or at the hospital. Suicides tend to be viewed through the lens of tragedy, as they are typically done by people who are not emotionally well and just can't see another way out. Here we have someone who knows with almost 100% certainty he's going to die soon, and instead of withering away in a hospital, he decided to take a trip to a rural town in Ireland and just fade away into the rising tides of a local beach. I know for a lot of people this isn't the way you'd want to go, but it was for him, and I think there's a weird serenity in knowing that Mr. Bergmann got to end his life the way he wanted. If you want to see more videos about true crime, criminal justice history, or mysterious stories like this, consider subscribing. Also, leave a comment below and tell us about any cases you think we should cover, or what your thoughts are about the mysterious final days of Peter Bergmann. This is Crime Spot, and thank you for watching.